good? Matt Clark here at the new Matt Clark. How are each and every one of you doing on this amazing Saturday? I'm doing great. My girl's doing great. My family's doing great. Hope each and every one of you are doing great. And I hope you're having an amazing weekend. It's a beautiful day. It's been beautiful weather. If you could please hit that like button, subscribe button, and that bell notification button so you get all my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that'd be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of most of my videos. So what's up? How are you? I'm good, man. I've been working a shit ton. I know I said I was gonna put the video out yesterday. I just had to work late. I just didn't have the opportunity to do it, and I'm sorry for that. But today we're doing this, and today we're going to talk about the part 2 of cell partners. The good side of having a cell partner, and there is a good side. I know in my last video I made it seem doom and gloom, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes a cell partner could be a lifesaver. Sometimes a cell partner could give you some pretty funny laughs. Despite the fact that a lot of the time they can be a problem, you can actually bond with somebody who's a cell partner and become really close friends, because when you spend so much time with somebody in such a close, confined space, if you don't really get along, it's not gonna work, you know? Unless somebody is 100% submissive, it's not gonna work, right? And when you're in the system, whether it's provincial or federal, not that many people are submissive. So you're gonna move in with somebody, or it's either gonna work or it's not. If it doesn't, you're gonna end up fighting with them. You're gonna end up cracking them out of the cell, whatever it is. That has to get it done, because, you know, maybe maybe you live with somebody. You can't live with that person, but they're not prepared to move. So now you have to force the issue, right? And that is the bad side. But let's talk about the good side. We got to start with provincial, because in provincial, you're always going to have cell partners. If you're in, you know, the Old West, the Dawn, and I'm sure there's other places in this province where you can be up to 3 to a cell. And that is tight. Some of these cells are small. Now, if you're in the super jails like Penetang, Lindsay, Maplehurst, they're definitely bigger cells, and they're typically 2 to a cell. And sometimes you'll get lucky for a week here, a week there. You might even be single cell. But in provincial, you're always going to have a Celly, and you're probably going to want to try and find a Celly that is the best for you. Now, I was the type of dude that I wasn't trying to be with my closest homie in my cell typically, because I know me, and I know that a lot of the times when you're friends with somebody and you get into that circumstance, it can ruin things, right? So for me, I typically just tried to find the best cell partner for me. I typically like somebody who was quiet, could play cards during a lockdown, could laugh and joke if the time was right, but also knew when to shut the fuck up and go to sleep, you know? A lot of people don't have that social awareness, especially on the inside. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of mental health and addiction. So a lot of people aren't super socially aware and don't know when to shut the fuck up. Seriously. Sometimes you just need to sleep, or sometimes you just need to sit with your thoughts. Sometimes you just have to, you know. You're in a circumstance where you're locked away from society, you know. You're locked away from your family, your kids, your woman, whatever it is. And that wears on you, no? It's like a heavy weight that weighs on you. So sometimes you just need the ability to be with your thoughts and just think and just cope, right? But if you constantly have somebody chirping, then that's not going to work. But like I said, I've been cell partners with some dudes who became my friends. One of my closest friends now, I met him as a cell partner in Lindsay. And I remember we were trouble, right? I remember a specific instance. My one homeboy from Road, he came in and he had a bag of ecstasy. And he was sending us, and I had the whole range blasted. And me and my homie were in the cell all night up, just partying to ourselves, right? And in the morning, we wanted more. So I had more sent in a kite, because the way the super jails are, you can kind of pass through the doors. Now they're going to watch, and if they see it, they could come for it, especially back then. The jail had just opened. They were a lot more strict back then. So I had a thing coming through the door, and it's like stuck in the door, and I'm fighting it. And I was on 4E at the time, and you could literally see right to that door from the copper table. And they saw me trying to pull this kite. So I'm trying to fight it through. They come running. I bang on the door, tell them, take it, go. Right? But there's cameras everywhere. They see everything. It is what it is, right? But they took it. It disappeared. But they came in. They ransacked mine and my homie's cell, and they found like old ripped up kites, and they took us to Seg. I told you I had done 2 30-day back-to-back loss of all privileges equaling 60 days in Seg. That was the first 30 days. Went from tripping and having a great night to me and my homie both being locked in Seg for 30 days. And when you go to Seg and you sit with your thoughts for 30 days, that's a different thing. You know, you have so much time on your hands that you just kind of lose it. And you talk to yourself, you'll tell yourself stories, and you'll smack a piece of paper against the wall, do 8,000 push-ups a day because you just keep going. I'm exaggerating with the number, but you could be doing 1,000, 1,500 push-ups, a bunch of sit-ups, bunch of crunches, bunch of lunges, bunch of squats, like just all day, just so hopefully you can sleep. But he ended up being one of my closest homies still to this day, and rode with me in a situation in Lindsay where we had to smash somebody. He was there by my side and been one of my ride or die friends ever since. Super loyal guy, stand-up guy. And I've had lots of Cellys, man, where I could laugh and joke and have a good time. And the funny thing is, when I was in Provincial, most of the time, the guys that I enjoyed being Cellys with the most were like the Rick the Roofer types, because I was typically never in with my squad, my homies, because majority of my life, my friends weren't like me. I was the guy that liked to put myself into that life also, right? But I also had a lot of friends that, despite the fact they partied, they did dope, maybe occasionally would break the law here and there, maybe they'd sell some drugs, but they weren't hardened criminals like I was, where I was doing year after year after year in time. So a lot of the time when I was going in alone. So I was like the lone wolf dude, a lot of the time, I was by myself. And I think that taught me how to do time. You have to learn how to stand up for yourself, but at the same time, you have to be smart because you're alone, and you always have to be smart. So I think maybe that's why, like, majority of my time growing up, Tyack, West, East, Dawn, I went in by myself. I didn't have a co-accused on the block or a gang on the block, and I never typically had issues. I just learned how to do my time that way. And I think that's the best way. A lot of guys, they want to go in, join gangs or whatever, but the best thing to do is have 1 or 2 guys that you're close with, probably going to be your celly. And that's kind of how it works. You and your celly will have like a codependent relationship almost. Like, you're both going to be out grinding, trying to bring things back to the table. So you're not going to want to be with a celly that you're not compatible with. If he's not smoking, if you're doing that kind of time, or if you're a guy who plays cards, you're going to want a celly that plays cards. If you're a guy who just reads books and wants to be left alone at night, then you're going to want the same kind of celly, It doesn't make sense to kind of do the opposite, because then it's just going to create friction. But, man, when you're doing lockdowns, and in a place like Lindsay or a place like Penetang, you do a lot of shortage of staff lockdowns. And that means day after day, maybe you get out for 3 hours one day, maybe the next day 6 hours, the next day not at all, then 3 hours. If you're alone all that time, it's nice to have a single cell when you're for sure going to get out every day and talk to dudes on the block. But when you're doing a ton of lockup time, man, it gets hard being by yourself. It basically becomes seg time. And sometimes you just need a conversation. It doesn't even have to be that deep. But you can also have deep, intelligent, intellectual conversations. And I find that when you're in a cell with people and you build trust with them, that is when somebody is at their most genuine. Because in prison, when you're in a cell with somebody, it's pretty dangerous to violate because you're by yourself. They're by themselves, right? So people have a lot more respect when it's one-on-one. It just is what it is. And you can build strong bonds that form protection for you. Maybe you have your Celly and 1-2 other guys, and you're not into gang shit. You're not trying to be in a gang, but at least this way, you have a couple guys that are going to stand up for each other. At least you hope are going to stand up for each other. And that way, you have a little bit more of an ability to stand up for yourself. Now, if you go to the federal system, it's completely different because in a lot of places, you can be in a single cell. A lot of ranges, it takes a long time, but you're also doing way more time. So if you do have a cell partner, it definitely has to be somebody you're compatible with. And I'm telling you, your close homeboys is a bad idea. Almost every time I move into a cell with my close homeboy, unless it's your homie from road, somebody that you already know and you already have that kind of a friendship with, where on the one away, they're not going to drive you mental. But man, I can't tell you how many times you think that somebody's your homie, and then you see the intricate details of their behavior or their character, and it makes you not like them. And because you see it so often, it starts driving you mental. But during lockdowns, man, cards, conversation, jokes is super important. Super important. Now, like I said, in federal, you can be on a range where you necessarily aren't going to be in a double cell. And in this case, you're probably going to find a couple guys on your range, right? That you have that kind of a bond and friendship with. Or maybe not even a super close friendship, but an arrangement where it's like, bro, if anything, I got you, you got me. We're both here. We don't have a gang with us. It ensures survival. And I can't tell you how many nights I stayed up all night laughing, dying because of my Celly, because of some funny shit that this guy's saying. Now, when you're in federal, it's a little different than provincial because there's more things to take into consideration, First of all, there's food. There's much more opportunity to cook, right? And you're not typically going to want to sit in front of your Celly and eat. So you guys are going to form kind of like a partnership, okay? You're going to go out, you're going to grind for this, you're going to grind for this. That means you have two minds thinking together and you're going to pull that much better. And by doing that, you're going to be able to live better. And it's just kind of smart. The problem is, it's 1 in 100 that you find a cell partner that you can trust, that you actually like, and that you can imagine living with for a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's a long time. Now, in most circumstances, once you've been somewhere for that long, you're going to be in a single cell, and your circumstances are going to change. But for lockdowns, for weapon searches, for those times where you could literally be locked down for 1 month, 2 weeks, 3 months, depending. If there's a homicide, you could be locked down for 2 months. When there was that riot in the Ville, they were locked down for like 3.5 months. If you were by yourself, you're going to start losing it. It doesn't matter if you have a TV. It doesn't matter if you have a stereo. It doesn't matter. You need human to human conversation. It's imperative to our mental health and to our survival mentally. It just is, you know. The longer you are segregated and alone, the quicker and more fast the damage is done. So it's good to have a Celly. It's good to have one when you find that Celly that you can trust. Now, obviously, I share my stories with you guys, so you don't have to go through these things yourselves. If I could snap my fingers, nobody's got to go to jail. Nobody's got to go to prison. Nobody's got to have a Celly. That's what I do. But that's not a reality, especially in 2023. It's hard out here. And sometimes things we do can land us in prison. And sometimes you could have a Celly. And hey, you might meet a super close friend. You might meet somebody that rides for you, that you can trust like that. And you, like I said, you may form a codependent relationship with somebody by you guys go out and get drugs together, you get food together, you pitch your money in for phone calls, for any kind of hustle, so you can ensure your survival, you can ensure that you live good. It just is what it is. Sometimes two brains, two minds working towards one goal is better, but at the end of the day, we would all choose to be by ourselves in a single cell, even suffering mentally, being alone and segregated, because most of the time when you land in a cell with somebody, it's not a good person. It's not somebody that you can trust. That's why I did the part one was the bad parts, because the reality is 95% of having a Celly is a bad part. But there is that 5%, and hey, you never know. You might find your best friend, you might find somebody that you can rely on. And if that's the case, all the power to you. If you could please hit that like button, subscribe button, and that bell notification button so you get all these videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that'd be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of most of my videos. So a lot of guys that I know that done a lot of time, they say, honestly, I'd rather not build friendships with people because they end up getting out and they forget about you. And then you're inside and you're like, fuck, man, this was my friend, and you're hurt by that. So they decide to kind of segregate themselves from people. And that's how I would feel. You know, I typically wouldn't want to have a Celly if I can avoid it. But sometimes, man, that Celly may save your life. And that Celly may become a close friend of yours if you get lucky. Love each and every one of you. The new Matt Clark.